Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how young you are. Did you ever have this feeling like you were going to go to Hollywood? You were going to make a movie, you were going to write a best-selling book, you were going to, you had some latent star power, you just need to figure out how to find the stage or how to get out, on the HBO circuit or something. But then you're conflicted because you're a Christian. And it's like, I can never do that. And then you think you got to give up your calling on the altar of sanctification because you can't really even do that. I've got a Hollywood insider today who's been in the studios, the founder of Movie Guide, literally is one of those Academy people that knows the studio heads, the people, even does an insider training for Christians on how to succeed in the arts and entertainment mountain, go to the top and not lose your soul. That's my interview today. So if you or your kids ever have the aspiration of being in one of those multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar enterprises for good, for instance, there are great Christian inroads that are happening right now in Hollywood. New lanes are opening up. God's moving in the arts and entertainment mountain, and I've got the expert here. It's amazing. He's just making himself available to give us a little inside scoop as to what's going on in the industry. By the way, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, I'm saying go to the top of the mountain like Caleb at 85. He said to Joshua, "Give me my mountain." He was ready to take his calling even in his 80s. It can happen. I don't care how old you are. That's what he told me. He said, people do this at all ages. Why don't you go to lancewallnau.com/occupy and get the notes and the digital or the physical copy of my new series on Occupy the Gates, how to identify a gate of access, a gate of influence, how to identify a gatekeeper, like this guy I'm going to interview, and then how to position yourself with competence and favor and timing so you go through the doors into the gates and you end up astonishing your family, friends, and neighbors who say, how did he do that? How did she get up there? Well, I'm going to give you the secret, lancewallnau.com/occupy. And let's get into today's interview with my friend, the founder and publisher of Movie Guide, Ted Baehr. Those of you that have been listening to me for years know that I innovated and introduced this concept of 7 mountains of culture. The idea didn't exist before me. It was called 7 Mind Molders or 7 World Kingdoms. I gave it mountains as a language because you climb it to get to the top. Now, the arts and entertainment mountain has always been, in my opinion, one of the great, ubiquitous, powerful shapers of reality. I think the President Trump understands that, which is why he so brands ideas so that people can get it into their head. I've got the expert who for longer than anyone else that I have contact with has been an insider in Hollywood. And he's going to help you understand how this works. He's the founder and publisher of Movie Guide, chairman of the Christian Film and Television Commission. He's actually, just talking to him a moment ago, I didn't realize he was the head of the department at Berkeley and ran studios in Hollywood, is the perfect person to help believers comprehend how to make it in Hollywood. And by make it, I mean get stuff across the finish line that goes to studios, that actually gets funded, that gets on the air. It's a complex industry. He knows the zigs and the zags. I want to welcome Ted Baehr. Ted, welcome. First time guest on our show, but what a joy to have you.
It's great to be with you. How come you're looking so young and I'm not?
Oh, well, that's because you are the wisdom of experience. That's what we want to draw from today.
Right, we wear out. That's it.
Well, yeah, but tell me something. Your dad was in 61 movies, so my generation older would remember your father. All my youngsters around here wouldn't, but he made 61. What was the genre that he mostly was in, and what was it like growing up with a Hollywood of celebrity?
Well, he did 62 movies.
62.
I'll add one. And he won the box office award in 1936, so he was a very big star at one point. He did a series. I just finished a book on him, and I showed you the book, but there it is. And he.
All right, now for the podcast audience, it's the golden age of Hollywood and Broadway, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And he was, after World War II, he did Broadway. So he starred in Showboat in 1946, the year I was born. And then he starred in plays from 1946 to 1986. The last one is he was Father of the Bride, and Whoopi, the revival of Whoopi. These were all famous plays. Andy Mame, all these plays. So I grew up on bi-coastal. That's what every actor does. They're sort of they're footloose and fancy free. You know, the smell of the grease paint, and the roar of the crowd. And movies have gone through many transitions, and they repeat themselves. But during the golden age of Hollywood, when he starred in 12 cowboy movies, which Ted Turner used to play all the time because there was no copyright on them. You know, the good guys wore white hats, and the good guys were actually, he had been in the cavalry, so he could ride, he could rope, he could, you know, shoot villains from underneath the horse. And there were a lot of good guys there. And many times they'd get together later at Western film festivals, and everybody'd say, "Oh, your father, I remembered him well." And you know, he was in the prime of the good age, and then the good age of Broadway, when you had Showboat that he was in. Andy Mame was the longest running show. Let's see, Carousel, My Fair Lady. I used to go across the street and watch My Fair Lady, Rex Harrison, all these famous people.
Who played Eliza Doolittle back then? Well, it was Julie Andrews or who was
Julie
it?
Andrews was recruited, of course, for the movie and did not play on Broadway. And she was a good singer, and she's a friend. And I've interviewed her, and she unfortunately they didn't let her sing, so they should have let her sing. They had somebody else, and of course that's the magic of Hollywood. But really, Hollywood goes in waves. So ask me your questions, and I'll see if I can answer.
All right. So one of the books you wrote, one of the things you teach on is how to go to Hollywood. We've got Christians, you know, we watch them go to Nashville. We always hear about whether it's Whitney Houston or somebody. My wife goes, you know, she sang in the choir, and then I always loved Whitney, and then she had a drug overdose. How do you go to Hollywood and not lose your soul?
Well, I teach that, and it's first place you got to remember that there's a news edge to Hollywood. The guys who are making news in Hollywood, let's say the Academy Awards. Last year, the Academy Award winner had done $32 million at the box office. We do this detailed economic analysis of the box office. Our biggest movie that came to the Movie Guide Awards, that the producer came up to me and said, "Ted, I'm a Christian. You know, the director is a Christian. I'm going to introduce him to him. The writer is a Christian." Made $2 billion at the box office. And he said, "You're the only review service who realized that the message of our movie is the joy of the Lord is our strength." And the next biggest movie at our event made $1 billion at the box office, and the head of that studio's production division came to the Movie Guide Awards and said, "We want to do more of these." So there are people making movies to make money, and usually there are a lot more people of faith and values. When we started, there was only one movie with positive Christian content. Now there are lots of movies with positive Christian content, whether it's just the message or whether it's a funeral or a wedding or whatever else. In the beginning, if you saw a Christian in 1985, he was usually a priest, because that's the easy way to recognize him. And he had a knife in his hand, and he was knocking on your door in Poltergeist. But that's all changed. There was only one movie in 85 with positive Christian content, that was Trip to Bountiful. So we've had a tremendous influence by showing them how to make more money. And that's our key to our influence. And I write a lot of books, and I teach a lot of people. One of the people who took my class a couple of years later produced the #1 movie on Netflix, 9 weeks, and then he became one of the studio heads. So we're populating the industry with people with strong, vibrant Christian faith and values.
I'm loving this. I'm wondering about young people that want to get into Hollywood. I'm going to go find I had a couple of questions I wrote down specifically for you. Young people going into Hollywood, they don't know where to go. I mean, so suppose you just say, I want to be able to do this. If you were advising, of course, you have contacts. If you were advising your nephew, someone who, not in your family, here's what you need to do. Where would you go? How would you start? Would you go the classic Berkeley route, or would you try to get an apprentice job with a Christian director, or get into some network and say, who can I meet?
Well, it's a very tight industry, as you know. There are only four major studios and two big streaming studios and one minor studio, Lionsgate, which handles Kingdom Story. So you've got really very few players. Let me give you an example. The Writers Guild says 3 million scripts circulating to be produced in Hollywood, but there are only 250 movies a year. The reason for 250 movies being released every year is because that's 5 movies a week. And nobody, except for maybe Lance, goes to 5 movies a week.
Right.
They go to one movie, Lilo and Stitch. They go to one movie, Mission Impossible, but where Tom Cruise goes down 500 feet and comes out without a shirt on. I don't know how he does that. I've been scuba diving since I was a child. You can't do that. It's mission totally fanciful, but he's a nice guy. So anyway, but they don't go to 5 movies a week. So 4 movies bomb, 1 movie succeeds. You can't do more than that. And if you've got 3 million scripts, your chance of getting into Hollywood is 300,000 to 1 every year. Your chance to getting into, I went to Cambridge, you get into Harvard, I went to an Ivy League school, it's about 11 to 1 for every 11 applications. So that means 300,000 to 1. So we make it easy for people to get in there. We introduce you to studio heads. One of them said to me when he was going to teach my class, it's only a 5-day class, he said, people would pay millions of dollars to meet me, and I'm coming to do this because I'm a friend of yours. So
I know
we want to connect the dots and help people get in. And there are many, other ways that you can do it. Truthfully, and I love film schools because I was head of a department at City University, New York, and head of a department at Berkeley. But a couple of my major friends in Hollywood say we do not like students that come out of film schools because each studio has its own brand. So if you look at Disney animation, don't criticize it for a minute. It's got one technique. Pixar is another technique. Universal, the head of the Minions and all that, is a good friend of mine. He went to Dartmouth. There's their own technique. And when a student comes out, they've gone to a school that's taught them a way of making movies that they don't use at Universal or at Disney or at Pixar or at DreamWorks. They use a different way, and they've got to get the students to unlearn, and that takes 6 or 9 months. And then they find out that the student can't unlearn or that the student's off to another job. So they want people to go in from the start. And getting in there, we teach people how to do that.
Wow. All right. So I'm mesmerized by the thought. When you give me like a key. So you got a whole lot of how do you do that? So I know you can't 5 days of intense classroom time, but give me a key right now. Throw something out to the audience here so they understand what you're talking about.
Well, you've got to be able to find the entry points. One of the people that I have teach grew up in a military family. He's Christian. He's conservative. He comes and teaches the class with a mega hat on. He's one of the heads of Legendary. Legendary does all their movies do 600 to 700 million and more at the box office. Their last one was Dune 2, which was 600 million. Yes. Then they did Mindspring, and he told me, you're the only good review of Mindspring, and it made about 400 million in a couple of weeks. But he came, and we didn't have a class. He didn't come to my class at that time. He went to the local watering holes for the studio heads, and he met with the studio heads, and he got into one of the agencies as a reader. The readers are really very important people. People who produce some of the biggest movies ever started out as readers. And my favorite example is 2 Dartmouth kids and a friend went in. They were reading scripts for Warner Brothers. They get paid $50 to $100 a script. They read 2 or 3 scripts. They found one that was really great. They bought it themselves without Warner Brothers. They gave it to Robert Redford and Paul Newman. It became one of the greatest movies of all time, and they became famous. And then they produced Superman and everything else. So
my God, the stories you're sitting on, Ted. I'm telling you. All right, look. Can I hold you on? I got to do a quick commercial. Can I just hold you for a second? All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back.
Clean, safe water. It's the foundation of a healthy home. But hidden contaminants could be putting your family at risk. That's why there's Sentry H2O, the smarter way to protect what matters most. It filters out what doesn't belong and restores what your body needs. Pure, mineral-rich water that tastes as fresh as it is clean. Because your family deserves more than just clean. They deserve water that supports their health. Go to lancewallnau.com/water and use code LANCE to save 10% on your water wellness system. That's lancewallnau.com/water, code LANCE.
All right, so we got our expert on the arts and entertainment mountain, Dr. Ted Baehr, who is an insider and has been. And if you've ever worked with Red Movie Guide and worked with it, and I think a lot of your parents have too. A lot for my younger audience. Is Movie Guide is still relevant, isn't it? And you've still got it publishing, and right?
We reach over 69 million people.
Come on, people,
We're
69
beloved.
million.
I'll give you an example of what that means. Most of them are young mothers who are concerned about their children. We teach you how to choose the right film, but also how to develop discernment. I'm a member of the Producers Guild, so is my son. It's very hard to get into. The top producers in Hollywood go to it. That's how we know these people. But anyway, I went to the Producers Guild conference 2 weeks ago, and as walking in, they said, "Oh, I recognize you. You spoke at the Writers Guild about how to make Christian films." And they wanted to do that. And then we sat down in the third row and we were listening to the head of Ron Howard's company that produces a tremendous amount of entertainment. And the two people, the husband and wife next to Robbie, said, "Oh, we've gotten Movie Guide to you for years." And we walked out and another guy said, "I want to take your class." And then somebody else said, "Oh, you're a legend in the industry." Movie Guide reaches a tremendous amount. I told you that the man who did Minecraft said that he'd gotten, they're mediocre reviews from Variety, the LA Times, et cetera. We loved it because they don't understand what families want. And we tell families, this is what you want. And he said, we made 400 million because it's 69 million people. That means at $10 a ticket, you have a potential of making $690 million. So we do the numbers. We help people get the audience there. We're just trying to help people succeed. It's not about, we want to be in the background. We want to train people to be successful, and then we want to see their product succeed. And about 60% of a movie is marketing. It's not the script. It's not the production. It's the marketing. So some of my best friends in the industry, I'll name one of them because he just passed 2 years ago, Barry Reardon. He graduated from Notre Dame, whatever you think about that. He was on a plane. Guy sitting next to him was from Warner Brothers. And he said, "What do you do?" He said, "I've trained in marketing." He hired him at Warner Brothers. He became the head of distribution at Warner Brothers. And he was there for many years and made Warner Brothers #1 for 17 years. And I said, "Barry, how did you do that?" He said, "Well, I'd get a couple of singles every year, a couple of doubles and a couple of triples and a few home runs." So that's the way you do it.
You just keep bringing runners around the bases. So, but the marketing, now that's an interesting point. So I think it was The Cry of Freedom was the first time I heard a movie that was being promoted. Like I would listen to Steve Bannon and War Room, and he had, what's his name, Caviezel on. And they interviewed him as an intense interview about child sex trafficking. And so then, hey, you guys can go fill up, like The Chosen, for instance, is another model. What I'm saying is, the Christian community sometimes gets frustrated by not having access to conventional mechanisms for marketing. So they're coming up with other ways of creating, I guess, church engagement and movement marketing. But I'm an outsider. I'm just observing it. But you're the first professional I could talk to about it. Is that true? Am I seeing something there that's accurate? That the church community is trying to find other ways of getting marketing going?
That's always been in there. And I've got to tell you that I don't know what your history of Hollywood is. Back in the 1890s, they were making nativity stories and they were making full-length feature films. And a friend of mine has written from one of the big universities, has written 2 good books on Vitagraph and on the man who invented Hollywood. And they did a lot of religious films, et cetera. And they've always known about marketing. In fact, Mark Twain was an expert in marketing when he got Grant's book done, which sold 400,000 copies. When you think of that in the 80s, he had veterans go out and pre-sell the book. But when I was head of the organization that did The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe on CBS television, we got 37 million viewers, and the country was only 170 million people. And we used part of that technique. We went to every denomination. I got contracts with the Southern Baptists, even with the Catholics, forgive me, with every single denomination, and so that they would make it their own. And you have to do that in the right order. Some denominations move very slowly. Some denominations move quickly. They made it C.S. Lewis Sunday, and that's, one of the ways we got. But the other way is that studios spend a tremendous amount of money on prints and advertising, on marketing. So, for instance, Neil McDonough was here in one of my favorite films, The Last Rodeo. I love it. And I was doing an interview and I said, who's distributing it? It's a little distributor. You know them well. How much are they putting into prints and advertising? I asked. And he said, 9 million. I said, the studios start their prints and advertising budget at 60 million. And for big movies like Dune, they do, maybe $100 million. And why do they do that? Well, you're in where? Dallas?
Right.
You're in Dallas?
Right.
Okay. If you want to buy an ad on Friday at the Dallas paper, it's probably going to cost you $200,000 or $300,000 for Friday, another $200,000 or $300,000 for Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
You spend $1 million on papers, maybe $1 million on TV, $1 million on radio. So you're saying that Dallas as a marketplace, and I used to do this with somebody, would cost you $2 or $3 million. Well, if you open it in 5,000 theaters across the country, that costs a lot of money. And if you do just the Christian marketing, which they did for Last Rodeo, and I helped them with it, but you don't do the prints and advertising. You see, if you do the Christian marketing alone, and you say to some teenager, the biggest audience for movies is between the ages of 18 and 24. And I can explain to you why that is, but that's because when you get married, you have children and you don't want to go out to movies. Why do they go to movies between 18 and 24? One, it only costs $10. Two, you get out, if the father says, I've got this great entertainment system. Why don't you stay here? Well, he doesn't want to stay here with his girlfriend because how can he hold her hand or do anything when he's sitting there with his father coming in every 5 minutes? Would you like some more popcorn? So he goes to the theater, $10 each of them, and they don't have to talk to each other. At 18, talking to the other person is very hard. So then they go to get ice cream. So the 18 to 24 audience, if you just do in the Christian community and they say, oh, this movie is really good for you, got to watch it. It's like drinking, castor oil or something. It's your parents telling you what to do. But if the newspaper and the other, and Movie Guide and somebody else says this is great, then you can make your own decision. I want to go see it. And when the pastor says it's good, he's just adding a little extra, icing to the cake.
So, but what you're telling me is interesting. Every now and then I see a movie that is panned by critics, and Annabelle and I'll watch it, and it's like, that's a great movie. And our conclusion is that we can't tell a movie's great by whether or not it made a buzz, because it maybe didn't, for reasons you're saying. It might have been the marketing. And the critics might not have liked it because it was too good in a wholesome sense, and it didn't have enough edge to it to be what they like. So I guess I got two questions there. Why does Hollywood miss the trend that family and positive thing? I remember when I watched it when I was on vacation and Tom Cruise came out with that Top Gun. I was predictably successful.
It's a great movie.
I said, it's got the great sound, it's got a story, and you feel good about your country when you're done.
And he repents with the girl.
That's right. Yeah. There's a theme there, right? Yeah, you're right. There's a moral lesson in it. And I thought, if that formula, you could write it out and I'd say, I'd invest in that stock. Everything else being equal, that's a success. Why does Hollywood miss that? What's the deal there?
One, we don't miss it. As I said, our Movie Guide Award nominees, one of them made $2 billion at the box office.
Okay. So we have our successes.
The other one made $1 billion. And the reason is that we look at movies in terms of 150 criteria. The most important, you'll get it, your audience may not, ontology, epistemology, but we're looking at entertainment. And the critics don't look at entertainment. And quite often they're so burned by seeing so many movies. So I was on the Today Show in Canada, and we were arguing about movies. And after the argument, after the show, he said to me, I agree with you. I have 4 children, but I see so many movies, I just want to be shocked. So and since they don't have standards, you've got to have standards. It's a difference between coming to Christ and understanding what those standards are. The joy of the Lord is our strength. Since they don't have standards, they can't apply those standards to movies. They're just looking for pushing the envelope further and further so that they get shocked. So the Academy Award winner this year was basically pornography, and the guy who made it, the director, had done 2 pornographic films before that.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I completely missed. See, I'm not paying attention to that stuff. I didn't know that. Nobody else said it. You're the first person that said it to me.
Well, you got to read Movie Guide.
I got to read Movie. Hey, how do we get Movie Guide? Let's do that. I have bestsellers on my show. Happens when people hear about it. How do they get Movie Guide? Where do they go?
Well, I want to help all those people be really bestsellers. Movie Guide at www.movieguide.org, movieguide.org. And if you have any questions about the class or anything else, just go to info@movieguide.org. Even though we reach a lot of people, we answer all the questions and we try to help people. We're here to serve. Ministry in Latin means service, so that's what we're doing. And you're doing the same thing, so I'm proud of you, Lance.
I appreciate that. And by the way, if you're interested in attending one of these classes, I have got to go because I'm a lifelong learner, and this is a field. I wanted to be in acting when I was younger. I ended up going into something else, but that was my goal. And my best friend when I grew up was Richard Kind, who actually went on into Hollywood and with Curb Your Enthusiasm and all this other stuff. And we just it's too bad that I never got a chance to pursue that. But my question.
Well, let me say something to you, because you're never too old. I get people all the time. Buñuel made his best movies. Buñuel, he's a famous Italian Spanish filmmaker, in his late 80s. Bergman made his best movies in his 70s. Fellini made his best movies in his 60s. You're never too old and you're never too young. So Orson Welles made his best movies in his 20s. So it's whenever God wants you out here. It doesn't matter how old or young.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got to get to one of those classes, and I know you got to go, and my studio's already telling me I'm going over, but I just have to ask one question. I lost money. I'm not a savvy investor in Hollywood. And what happens is I've got friends in the industry, but you're the first mentor. These other guys have specialist things. They got a movie they like. You understand the industry. Now, I did well with a movie, investing, and I lost my shirt in a movie. And my dad told me, don't ever invest in a stock you don't understand. Well, I don't understand, obviously. But give me a secret here. Why do people lose? Is there a secret to one question? What's the role of the story itself in terms of a successful movie?
Well, one, you've got to recognize the story. There's many Christian films that just don't understand a story. For instance, Walt Disney said, for every tear, there has to be a laugh. This is the original Walt Disney. So in Bambi, when the mother gets shot, it doesn't keep on the mother. It turns to Thumper, who's the comedian, and it becomes funny. If you keep them down, which many Christian movies do, you've got melodrama, not drama. Many of those movies don't succeed because of that. But there's another problem. Hollywood, I can teach you this, and I can teach anybody else, funds films. And when you bring a film in that's been funded outside of the system, it doesn't get tender loving care. And often it gets taken advantage of. So you have to learn how the system works, because it's a business, and a very wealthy business.
Ooh, that was a major aha right there in the studio. We're all nodding our heads. I want you guys, if you're interested in finding out more about the class, obviously you want to go to MovieGuide, right? .org. And
MovieGuide.org.
Right. And write to me, freedom at Lance Wallnau, WALLNAU.com, if you are interested in being associated with my group that is going to be the artists, aspiring directors, movie makers, studio people for the future who want to shape the arts and entertainment mountain. Ted, thank you so much for making yourself available and for your mission, which is to make the world better by utilizing your genius in this field to give us all the edge we need to succeed. Thanks so much.
It's a delight. You're wonderful. And you bring joy to the interview. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. God bless you. Look forward to talking to you again.
Bye-bye.
Now, I'm telling you, that is gold. That's gold. I mean, to imagine a man like this could offer us the opportunity to go sit at the feet of experts for a week. Powerful. You don't want to miss it. freedom@lancewallnau.com. Let me know if you're interested. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends.